Jerome Tang fired at Kansas State, but for cause? Well, because we hate him. How's that going to work? Did the university just save itself $18 million? I don't think so. This is a bonus episode of Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday night, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. I joined ESPN Central Texas this morning to talk about your Big 12, my Big 12, the whole Big 12. And each of the major storylines that came up, I wanted to deliver to you. So I'm doing that right now. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Jerome Tang, fired for cause? Let's go.
The one and only Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, and host of Westwood One Morning Show, and frequent cruiser as well. Morning, Drake.
Good morning, Ward. Okay, two things. One, the cruise last week was a work cruise. I was paid to be there. No pina coladas, no drinking. And two, they just played the promo about how Baylor softball is playing the Clemson Invitational this weekend. Clemson's 2 hours from me. My sister will be playing in Clemson, and no one told me. I have to find out on your station. My sister can't even tell me she's playing in my backyard. Good thing I was on today.
Well, I'm glad you were, so you could have a heads up and get on the road and go see your sister. Well, that's a good
for
thing.
Sure. Thank you, Ward.
See, there's always a reason for having Drake Toll with us here on a Monday. Big 12 continues to go down the road and try to find its representative for the NCAA tournament. One of those teams right here close to home, the Baylor Bears, are getting close, Drake, to playing themselves out of the NCAA tournament as Louisville takes them down in Fort Worth 82-71.
Yeah, I think this one is wrapped up, and surely we'll talk about Jerome Tang, Kansas State, that entire situation. Many teams really played themselves out. It's the Kansas State Wildcats at this point. But before we get there, you're right. Baylor is doing exactly that. They are showing the committee, hey, we don't deserve to be an NCAA tournament team. And honestly, at 13-12, now you're talking about it being very tough to be an NIT squad and how you approach that invitation. So they'll actually get Kansas State tomorrow night on the road in a later game. And the good thing for Baylor, of their last 6 contests in Big 12 play, only 2 are against ranked teams, but one of them is against Arizona, who's a juggernaut, the other on the road against Houston. Even if you finish 4 wins of those last 6 or 5 wins of those last 6, you're still only 18-13. And that's just not going to, or 17-13, I should say, that's not going to get you into the NCAA tournament. At this point, I think Baylor, who's 14th in the Big 12, will have to win the conference tournament to get in.
Drake, when you look at the Big 12, and you just mentioned it, and let's get to it, Jerome Tang, Kansas State head coach, Houston beats them. You lose to number 3 in the country, and you lose your job. I know it's been a rough road for him the whole season long, but it comes down to that over the weekend, and Jerome Tang out at Kansas State.
Yeah, it goes to show the timing of this, that they were probably going to fire him no matter what, even if he had beaten Houston, knowing he would likely lose that game, and obviously he did. But, Ward, this was a classic case of a head coach who goes to the Elite Eight in his first season, butting heads with administration that he can't unbutt heads with after some tumultuous conversations in his second year about Naquan Tomlin and whether or not some of his star players would play when the athletic director and president would not let them play. Tang lost control of the program, never regained it, and Kansas State fans became calloused over this. The biggest thing to watch, and I think this is absurd, he has an $18 million buyout. And Gene Taylor, the athletic director at Kansas State, said, we don't want to pay that. We're going to fire him for cause. And America said, well, what is the cause? And Gene Taylor said, in essence, well, because we hate him. You can't fire somebody for cause just because they lost games. That's to quote the great Michael Scott, because we hate him. Tang said on Wednesday in a press conference last Wednesday, his quote was, "This was embarrassing. These dudes do not deserve to wear the uniform. There'll be very few of them on the roster next season." And Ward, what's wild is somewhere deep down in his contract, he can be fired for cause if he does bring incredible embarrassment to the university, which is so vague. And they want to use his word embarrassment that he used on Wednesday in his press conference against him and show that he has embarrassed Kansas State. And they do not need to pay him an $18 million buyout. I think he'll certainly get his money, but the Jerome Tang era ends at Kansas State, and one man's trash likely becomes one man's treasure, as I'm sure he'll be walking the sidelines for Scott Drew once again next season.
That was my next question. Is it wishful thinking to think that Coach Drew may get the band back together?
Yeah, I think that it went so far south for Tang, namely there at the end, that he'll balk at the idea of becoming a head coach at, say, an FAU or a North Florida or one of those smaller programs, and he'll probably just bring it all the way back and become an assistant once again. And why not do it under Scott Drew? You know, there are other Drew options. He could go to Texas Tech and try to revive or rejuvenate his career there. He could go to Wichita State if he really wanted a true restart, but Baylor needs a kick in the pants. Baylor needs something different right now in the way that they recruit, the way they build their NIL, their roster. Jerome Tang could be that guy. And look, I don't think Scott Drew wins a national championship if not for a guy like Jerome Tang. It's not that not that crazy to say, that far-fetched to say. The assistants are a very big piece of how your college organization, now these are organizations, how they stay afloat. And so Tang being in Waco next year will be a massive win, in my opinion, for both parties.
Greg Toll with us in the press box here on ESPN Central Texas. Okay, Arizona last week, they get toppled by Kansas, then turn around and Texas Tech takes them to overtime and gets the win. So they go 0 for 2 last week, but Tech makes a statement for them to climb up in the rankings as well. And this conference just keeps getting tighter and tighter at the top, doesn't it?
Yeah, we lost him. Let me get him back.
Okay.
That was weird.
Oh, hello there. It is nice to see you. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. Why is it brought to you by Indeed? That's because I like to hire people for Locked On Big 12 specifically, because I got a lot of stuff going on between the Savannah Bananas and Westwood One. I need someone to run the social media of Locked On Big 12. So Indeed helps me find the perfect candidates. In minutes, Indeed sponsored jobs can send me dozens of people who are the right hire for me, and they've already vet them on some major things that I care about. In the minute that I've been talking to you, 27 new hires have been made on Indeed worldwide, according to Indeed data. Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. 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 Terms and conditions apply. It'll show that you support my show. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed.
Drake Toll joins us back here on the press box. And Drake, I was saying, Tech gets the upset over Arizona. They go 0 for 2 last week. Kansas gets the upset, then turn around and lose to Iowa State on Saturday. At the top, this thing just keep getting more crowded in the Big 12, doesn't it?
Yeah, Ward, first and foremost, sorry that the phone dropped out there. There's this online streaming company that really wants the Drake Toll show to come over to their airwaves, and they've been jacking with my phone. We'll see how long I can avoid saying yes to them. But at the top of this league, if you get it, you get it. At the top of this league, Ward, there is now a hodgepodge. I think I told you last week, 2 weeks ago, that it was Arizona's conference and everybody else is fighting for second place. Now that's a little bit different. Houston's 23-2 overall. Iowa State is a stalwart. They'll face Houston at home tonight. I think Iowa State will win that game, and yet both teams will stay in the top 5. There's a real possibility, and this would be crazy, that the Big 12 has 3 number 1 overall seeds, 3 number 1 seeds in the regions come March, and that Houston, Iowa State, and Arizona are each right there. Though Arizona lost to Texas Tech, I don't think it counts them out of the national championship conversation, and I do believe each of those 3 teams are built to win a championship. And what's also crazy is, you mentioned Texas Tech, they have that bone in their body. They have that same ability. Look, they have losses to Illinois, Purdue, Arkansas. Those are all really good competition and still really good competition. NCAA tournament teams at the highest level. They lost at Houston, against Kansas, and then their road loss, I should say, against UCF is really the only glaring one on their schedule. Texas Tech could lose, certainly, to any top team in the country, but they can also beat the number 1, number 2, number 3 squads. They have 3 wins against top 5 teams right now as we sit Monday, February 16th. Texas Tech is a little bit less consistent than the top end of the Big 12, those top 3 in the Big 12. However, they continue to get wins against some of the best schools in the country. They do still hold wins against BYU, Houston, Arizona. Texas Tech is a national championship caliber team out of the Big 12.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about them as well, as close as they are, and you mentioned they could win any given night, and then also they could slip up any given night. But are they the one team in the Big 12, if they had a big man, they could be really, really dangerous in the NCAA?
I think so. And you know what's crazy is I don't know if in this era of college basketball, you really have to have a true big man. You know, Purdue or Illinois, some of those Big Ten or Big East teams who have competed in the NCAA tournament, they usually have that 7'4" kid that nobody can stop, a Zach Edey type for Purdue. But I want to think back to that Baylor national championship game, or when Kansas won it the year after. There was Mark Vidal, and he was a Flo Thamba, but they weren't true elite bigs. Baylor won with savvy guard play. The way that Texas Tech can win its last 6 games in Big 12 play, by the way, only 2 of those against ranked opponents, 2 of those 6. The way that they've won in the Big 12 so far is through savvy guard play, and they'll continue to do that in this last stretch of the regular season. And with JT Toppin on your basketball team, Christian Anderson, with those guys leading the way for you, I don't think they need a true 7-foot guy. Lawan Watts is their 6'6" kind of do-it-all Mark Vidal type. If Baylor fans are listening and want a reference to it, Texas Tech can still win a national championship without a true big, but it wouldn't hurt to have one of those guys in the fold.
On the women's side of things, Baylor bounces back in a big way with a big win over UCF to get back on the left side of the column. TCU continues to win again. Are we running into the collision course much like last year in the final game of the season?
I hope so, for the sake of Nikki Collin and the Bears. I think Nikki wants to get the TCU monkey off her back. She wants to get the big game monkey off of her back altogether. This Baylor team can go on the road and knock off a UCF, as you mentioned, 93-60. They can beat inferior opponents. We've learned that. When do they get the signature home win? You know, when does it feel like they're playing super well at home so that fans continue to want to come out? They lost at West Virginia. Come to find out, it's a very scrappy, solid West Virginia team. They lose at home in a big, hyped-up game against TCU and in blowout fashion by 16 points. They lost at home to Texas Tech earlier this year. Come to find out, Tech is also good, but defending that home court has been tough for Nikki Collin. It's almost like, as good as they are on the road, and we'll see a regular season matchup with Baylor and TCU at the end of this one, they're even better in tournament play. Learned that in the Big 12, in the Big 12 tournament last season. They'll do that again, in my opinion. I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head here, Ward. Baylor's just kind of they're waiting to get out of that home court regular season vibe, mentality, and mindset and start playing games that matter for their season being on the line. When they do that, I think the Bears could have a very fun rematch with the TCU Horned Frogs come postseason play. Well, hello. You've caught me at a great time. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. There is something about a Mazda. They're moving the game forward for those who show there's more to what's on the scoreboard. And while there's more to what's shown on the scoreboard, there also is still the scoreboard. Texas Tech is this week's bar raiser. Their ability to win against the best schools in America, like Arizona or Iowa State, just goes to show that they're a legitimate contender to win it all this year. Dialing in every detail, giving it the extra fire, and the I never quit. We put that same passion into every Mazda model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you with Mazda. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel. I'm giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future. Profit boost on any NBA future and win a shot at an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're ready to look at the board, you're thinking about which team can make a deep run, put in a futures bet right now at FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Saw something over the weekend in the NCAA baseball that hasn't happened in 50 years, may not happen again in another 50 years, but it happens right here in Waco with Tice Armstrong. hitting 3 grand slams in a single game to power the Bears past New Mexico.
Yeah, congratulations to Tice. It's cool to see ESPN and every major radio station talking today about the name Tice Armstrong and the Baylor Bears. And I thought about it today on the Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports, that, man, it's not very often you get an excuse to talk about Baylor at the national level right now. Men's basketball has been fairly lackluster. Football was lackluster, missed a bowl game this year. It's cool to see Baylor going viral, Baylor in the headlines. ESPN, their social media team, posted that Tice Armstrong had hit a grand slam and had 12 RBI. I was like, well, yeah, that's how the grand slams go. Usually is you get four of them for each. And look, at least you're getting publicity out of some of these folks. And so the Tice, and I think about this when I think about moments such as these. His name goes in the record books, and his last name, Armstrong, that's his dad's last name, his granddad's last name. That's a really cool thing for him to represent Baylor, represent his family, and have America talking about him today. The Baylor Bears baseball team, Mitch Thompson, have they finally figured it out? I think it's a very good. They have more arms now than I can remember under Thompson. This feels like the year where he's got the monkey off his back and can flip things completely and make the NCAA tournament.
Drake Toll with us here on the Press Box on ESPN Central Texas. And softball coming up. You get a chance to be close. Are you going to venture out and go see your sister in the Bears?
Yeah, I actually went and saw them practice about a week before their season started, and they've got a really gritty team. What this Baylor softball team reminds me of a little bit is look, they're not going to win 50 games in the regular season. They're not going to win 45 games in the regular season, but they've got the grit to beat just about anybody. They've got the grit to sneak up on anybody. And that feels like the way Glenn Moore has crafted his roster. Yeah, they're going to lose a couple games you did not expect. They're going to fall in the midweek to McNeese State, and you'll wonder how that happened. But at the same time, they'll walk into a weekend series and sweep BYU. They'll walk into a weekend series and they'll upset a team like Arizona on the road, or they'll pull off a big upset at home against Oklahoma State. I've got a lot of confidence in what Coach Moore is building and excited to see what they do against tough competition like Clemson this weekend. That's a gritty Clemson team. They'll get a day of action on, I think it's Friday, and then we'll see what happens on Saturday for the Clemson Invitational. And then, like I said, McNeese State or Sam Houston State, Stephen F. Austin, you start building these wins up. Iowa State at home is a very easy way to open up conference play. If they can sweep or take 2 out of 3 there, they're off and running. And I think after watching what I've seen so far this year, and even though they did slip up to San Diego State, this is an NCAA tournament team once again for Glenn Moore.
Drake Toll with us here on the Press Box on ESPN Central Texas. Drake, tell them again how they can find you.
Well, I mean, if this online streaming media team keeps calling me, I don't know, Ward, I might have to make a career jump. But as of right now, it's Locked On Big 12 or wherever you find your podcasts, and Westwood One Sports from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time every morning. Ward, don't you answer those calls either. We need people like you in this world.
All right, Drake, appreciate the time as always. There he goes, Drake Toll with us in the Press Box on ESPN Central Texas. I think he stayed on the boat a little too long.
Good guys, good dudes. Peace and love, baby. Peace and love. Love you. Mwah. Bye. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose grande.